So we're in Book 1, the Book of Beginnings, Canto 3, the Yoga of the Soul's Release. This is Aurobindo describing to us the early stages of King Ashwapati's yoga, the first main stage, the yoga of the soul's release. And we've been reading in the last couple of weeks about the effect on King Ashwapati and his sadhana of the visits of the goddess of inspiration, who has been revealing all kinds of wonderful secret knowledge to him. Those were visits, but now she comes and enters into his being. I'm going to read on from line 696. The inspiring goddess entered a mortal's breast, made there her study of divining thought and sanctuary of prophetic speech, and sat upon the tripod seat of mind. All was made wide above, all lit below. In darkness core she dug out wells of light. On the undiscovered depths imposed a form, lent a vibrant cry to the unuttered vasts, and through great shoreless, voiceless, starless breadths bore earthward fragments of revealing thought, hewn from the silence of the Ineffable. A voice in the heart uttered the unspoken name. A dream of seeking thought, wandering through space, entered the invisible and forbidden house. The treasure was found of a supernal day. In the deep subconscient glowed her jewel lamp. Lifted, it showed the riches of the cave, where, by the miser traffickers of sense unused, guarded beneath night's dragon paws, in folds of velvet darkness draped, they sleep, whose priceless value could have saved the world. A darkness carrying morning in its breast looked for the eternal wide returning gleam, waiting the advent of a larger ray and rescue of the lost herds of the sun. In a splendid extravagance of the waste of God, dropped carelessly in creation's spendthrift work, left in the chantiers of the bottomless world, and stolen by the robbers of the deep, the golden shekels of the eternal lie, hoarded from touch and view and thought's desire, locked in blind anters of the ignorant flood, lest men should find them and be even as gods. A vision lightened on the viewless heights, a wisdom illumined from the voiceless depths, a deeper interpretation greatened truth, a grand reversal of the night and day. All the world's values changed, heightening life's aim. A wiser word, a larger thought came in than what the slow labor of human mind can bring. A secret sense awoke that could perceive a presence and a greatness everywhere. The universe was not now this senseless whirl borne round inert on an immense machine. It cast away its grandiose, lifeless front, a mechanism no more, or work of chance, but a living movement of the body of God. A spirit hid in forces and in forms was the spectator of the mobile scene. The beauty and the ceaseless miracle let in a glow of the unmanifest. The formless everlasting moved in it, seeking its own perfect form in souls and things. Life kept no more a dull and meaningless shape. In the struggle and upheaval of the world, he saw the labor of a Godhead's birth. A secret knowledge masked as ignorance. Fate covered with an unseen necessity, the game of chance of an omnipotent will. We'll go back to line 696 and look at each of these sentences in detail.
I can ask something.
Yes, please, Janaka.
In line 710, or heaven, is in the deep subconscious, no? This is the subconscious Italian, but in Italian we use also the word inconscious. There is a difference between
Yes.
conscious and deep subconscious. I think yes, but I don't understand how.
We use the word the inconscient for what seems to us totally without consciousness. A kind of deep ocean of darkness where there doesn't seem to be any consciousness. We think we associate it with matter, but matter is inconscient. But within our own consciousness, there are different levels. There are levels that are superconscient to our mind. They're on higher levels, and the mind has to open up in a special way in order to reach those levels that are normally superconscient to us. And then we have this surface consciousness where we usually operate, but behind that there's something which Aurobindo calls the subliminal, an inner mind, inner life, inner physical consciousness. And those open up, the inner parts of the being open up to the circumconscient, to the consciousness that is around in the environment, in the universe. And below, there's a level that is subconscient. And we can access that subconscious. It is possible to go into sort of inner states and to enter into that deep, what he calls here the deep subconscious. It's not totally inaccessible. So that is on a higher level than what we think of as completely inconscient, incapable of consciousness. Yeah. Which side are we starting today? Martin, you will begin.
The inspiring goddess entered a mortal's breast, made there her study of divining thought, and sanctuary of prophetic speech, and sat upon the tripod seat of mind. All was made wide above, all lit below.
Yes. So in the previous lines of this section, the goddess of inspiration has been visiting Aswapati, often bringing him all kinds of new knowledge. But now she enters into his human being, makes there her study, her place where she will do her research, her study of divining thought, thought that is not based on reason but on intuition. And that will be her sanctuary of prophetic speech. In ancient temples, there would be sometimes a sanctuary, a special inner secret place where would sit an oracle, somebody who could receive inspiration and share secret knowledge, sometimes in very mysterious language. So here in this sentence, Aurobindo seems to be alluding to the famous oracle in Greece, in ancient Greece, in the temple of Apollo in Delphi. There was a priestess, the Pythia, she was called. And she would go into a trance, and if actually the city-states of Greece, their governments used to send delegations to her to ask for her advice if there were important decisions to be made, or even individuals could do it. And there in that cave sanctuary, nowadays they think that there must have been some special vapors that came up through this volcanic rock, and this would send her into a trance, and then she would give her messages. And as with the modern day state oracle of Tibet, it is the same thing. That oracle goes into a trance, and he's asked certain questions, and the way that he expresses the answers is not understandable to ordinary people. There has to be somebody who interprets the messages. And it was similarly in Delphi that there would be somebody who would interpret the utterances of the priestess. And in order to make those prophetic utterances, she used to sit on a three-legged seat. And this tripod, this three-footed thing, was important to the Greeks. All their offerings to the gods, they would place on a three-legged stand like that. So it means that when she was seated on that stool, she was in communion with the divine. So here he gives an allusion to that. He says that this ordinary mind of Asvapati becomes the tripod stool for the goddess of inspiration. It's made a sacred seat to receive the utterances of the goddess. So as a result of the inspiration which she brings to Asvapati, all was made wide above. This lid above the mind was removed, and there's a vast wideness of superconscience there, and she lights up all the deeper, lower, and the lower and deeper levels of consciousness. Would you like to read? Yes. Line 701.
Sure. In darkness's core, she dug out wells of light. On the undiscovered depths imposed a form. Lent a vibrant cry to the unuttered vasts. And through great shoreless, voiceless, starless breaths, bore earthward fragments of revealing thought, hewn from the silence of the Ineffable.
So in the very, very heart of darkness, of the inconscient, she's able to dig out wells of light. She bores holes and light flows up. Hidden light. And on those undiscovered depths of consciousness and awareness, which seem formless, shapeless, she can give a form. Those vastnesses that are unuttered, which have never been expressed, she can lend them a voice so that they express themselves in a vibrant cry. And another thing that she does is to carry towards the earth fragments of revealing thought. And she has hewn those fragments as if she's working in a quarry, cutting the hard rock. She has hewn from the silence of the ineffable. The ineffable is that supreme presence which cannot be described or expressed. No? From that silence of the supreme, she brings little fragments to Asvapati. She has to carry them a long way through great, shoreless, voiceless, starless breadths. All the vastness of inner space. Mochi, you're ready to read.
A voice in the heart uttered the unspoken name. A dream of seeking thought wandering through space entered the invisible and forbidden house. Treasure was found for its eternal day.
Yes. So this voice speaks in Asvapati's heart, utters the name that usually is not spoken. And by her action, somehow in his consciousness, a dream of seeking thought, a thought that is looking for something. It's wandering through space. It found a house. It found and entered the invisible and forbidden house. I don't know what this house is or where it is. We can meditate on it and see if we can find an answer of it. But it seems as if, as Asvapati's consciousness enters that house, he finds there a treasure, the treasure of a supernal day, a supreme full light of day. Bhavana.
In the deep subconscious glowed like jeweled lamp. Lifted, it showed the riches of the cave where, by the miser trackifiers of sand, unused, guarded beneath night's dragon paw, in folds of velvet darkness, deep they sleep, whose priceless value would have saved the world.
So in the subconscious, we are not aware of it. It's like a deep, dark cave. But when the goddess of inspiration lifts up her jewel lamp in that cave, it reveals all the treasures that are there, all these wonderful treasures. They've been hidden there by the miser traffickers of sense. These are the beings who are referred to in the Vedas as the Dasyus and the Panis. They are the robbers of the deep. Aurobindo connects them with the senses. If we don't offer our sense experiences to the divine, if egoistically we take everything for ourselves, then we become these miser traffickers. We don't use those treasures, we want to keep them for ourselves. And we bargain with them. Traffickers, they are people who do bargaining and exchanging. These treasures are unused in that cave. They are being guarded by a dragon of night, of darkness, of unconsciousness, we can say, or deliberate darkness. So it reminds us of many fairy tales, of these secret caves where there are wonderful treasures, and you can't just take them away because there's a dragon there. He has collected them and he's sitting on them and he won't give them up. But there they are, lying, wrapped up in folds of velvet darkness. They're asleep. All these wonderful treasures, possibilities that are lying in our subconscious of all of us. And if they weren't guarded by a dragon, if they weren't kept there by these miser traffickers, their priceless value could have saved the world. The world wouldn't be the difficult place that we experience it to be now. Naren, you've arrived just in time to read.
Darkness carried morning in its best. Look for eternal white turning gleam, greeting the advent of a larger ray and rescue of the lost herds of the sun.
Yes. So it's as if when inspiration lifts up her jewel lamp, Aswapati sees that in the darkness of the subconscious, there's the possibility of a wonderful dawning, a darkness carrying morning in its breast. This is also, of course, Vedic symbolism, that every night is giving birth to a dawn, and every day is giving birth to a night. So this darkness which he sees, holding within it the possibility of morning, is looking for the dawn to come back, the eternal, wide, returning gleam, that wonderful light which brings new knowledge and possibilities with it. And that darkness is waiting for the advent of a larger ray, of brighter, stronger, more powerful ray of consciousness that will enable the rescue of the lost herds of the sun. This again is an allusion to a Vedic myth, which we can think of as a kind of companion myth to the myth of Savitri and Shraddhavan. It's the myth of the Angirasas, which tells how these Panis and Dasyus, these robbers of the deep, have stolen the cows that belong to the sun. And the cows are the rays of light. The word go, it means a ray of light, and it also means a cow. So this is this psychological symbolism of the Vedas. These are rays of consciousness, and they've been taken captive by these lower forces and hidden away inside a cave. And the Angirasa rishis, they somehow intuit that those rays must be there, hidden somewhere. And they call for help from the goddess, and she sends her power of intuition, Sarama, who is imaged as a dog, a hunting dog, with a very keen nose, who can sniff out where the cows have been hidden. So Sarama shows the way to where the cows have been hidden, but it's a cave inside a great black hill, all the rock of the inconscient. So the rishis, they have to call for help to the gods. And Indra, the god of mind, comes to their help and utters a very powerful mantra that is so powerful that it shatters that black hill of unconsciousness, and the cows can come out. And when the cows come out, it's not only they bring light with them, it also calls down rain from heaven. All the divine energies come pouring down, and a great flood of rain, and pour into the seven great rivers. So there's an allusion here to this, that darkness is there in us, waiting for that greater dawn to come when all these inner treasures will be released and the higher energies will become active in the world. Apart from that, it's such glorious poetry, these lines, pictorial lines. And of course it makes us think of Alibaba and the robber's cave and other stories. Subha, will you read?
In the splendid extravagance of the vastness of God, drop carelessly in some creation, spent with gold, live in the channels of the bottomless world, and stolen by the robbers of the deep, the golden shackles of the eternal life, further from touch and view and thoughts desire, locked in blind, entered emptiness of the ignorant flood, lest men should find them and be even as gods.
Yes. So also in that cave are lying these other treasures, the things that have been dropped in the course of creation and the course of evolution, in this splendid extravagance of the waste of God, as if God is so lavish with all his treasures, he doesn't even notice that some of them are getting dropped carelessly in this all this extravagance of energy that he's spending on creation. And they've got dropped and they are left there in the shantias, the construction sites of the bottomless world. Sometimes in dreams you may go down into these construction sites in the subconscious where the world is getting built. So there they were just lying, and those robbers of the deep have immediately found them and stolen them. These are golden shekels. A shekel is an old Hebrew word for a big gold coin. And these were meant to be offered in the temple, of course. Well, these precious coins of the eternal are lying. And that dragon and those panis and those dasyus are hoarding them, just keeping them hidden, not using them, not touching them, not seeing them, and we can't even think of them. We don't know that they are there at all. No. They are locked up in these blind anters. An anter is also a cave, a dark cave, undersea in the ocean of the inconscient. They keep them there because if human beings would find them, then they would become divine. They would become even as gods. So this is another series of wonderful things that inspiration shows to Asvapati. Chandra, would you read?
A vision flattened on the river's heights. A wisdom illumined from the voiceless depths. A deeper interpretation, greater truth. A grand riddles of the night and day. All the world's levels changed, heightening life's aim. A wiser word, a larger thought came in. Than what the slow labor of human mind can bring. A secret sense awake that good perceive. A presence and a greatness everywhere.
Yes. So with the help of the goddess in Asvapati, a vision lights up on these heights above that we can't see. And even a light comes from below, a wisdom illumined from the voiceless depths. There's not only wisdom on the heights, there's also wisdom hidden deep within. And with that vision and that wisdom, Asvapati can look at the world in a new way, a deeper interpretation, greatened truth. We look and we think, and this is right and that is wrong, this is true and that is false. But the truth can be deepened and greatened. What he sees is a grand reversal of the night and day, as if all the world's values have changed. Everything that he thought was light becomes dark, and what was dark becomes full of light. What seemed true now looks false. What was thought to be false and extravagant seems true. This reversal of consciousness is a very important development in our inner growth. So when this happens to him, when all the world's values changed, heightening life's aim, giving a much deeper and greater meaning to our human life. And a wiser word, a larger power of thought came in than what the slow labor of human mind can bring. This is a completely new kind of revelatory consciousness. Even in him a secret sense wakes up, so that when he looks around, he can see a presence and a greatness everywhere. As one of the mantras Aurobindo has given to his disciples. In all things let me see the divine. Then the world's values change completely when we can perceive this presence and this greatness everywhere. Janaka.
The universe was not now this senseless world, born around in an inert or an immense machine. It cast away its grandiously lifeless front, a mechanism no more work of chance, but the movement of the body of God.
Yes. So this is how we should be able to see the world. Not like this meaningless circling that seems to be carried around helplessly on some vast universal machinery. This appearance of matter as being something lifeless, unconscious, that's just thrown away like taking off a mask. He experiences the universe around him no longer as a mechanism, an enginery, or something that's random and happening by chance. He sees all this material world as a living movement of the body of God. Joel.
The spirit hid in forces and in forms was the spectator of the mobile scene, the beauty and the ceaseless miracle left in the glow of the unmanifest. the formless everlasting moved in it, seeking its own perfect form in souls and things. Life kept no more a dull and meaningless shape.
Thank you. So he can see this spirit that's hidden in all these apparently material, unconscious material forces and forms. And that he's aware that that spirit is watching all this movement, keeping it in existence, perhaps also keeping it in order, in harmony, by looking at it, this mobile scene. And then he sees all this beauty, the ceaseless miracle of the universe, and it even allows to penetrate through it a glow of what has not been manifested, which has never been manifested so far. No? And in all that, the formless, everlasting, the eternal, bodiless, formless, nameless, is moving in it. But it's seeking for its own perfect form in souls and things. That's what's really going on. The everlasting is seeking from us that development of its own perfect form. So life, of course, no longer had a dull and meaningless shape. It has a much, much profounder and more miraculous significance. Mila.
In the struggle and upheaval of the world, he saw the label of a godless God. A secret knowledge masked as ignorance. Faith covered with an unseen necessity, the game of chance of an omnipotent will.
So, all the struggle and upheaval of the world, all the disorder that is so painful to us, he sees that this is like a woman giving birth. The labor giving birth to a God, to a divine being. He saw that all this appearance of ignorance is actually just a disguise, covering a secret knowledge. What we see as fate, as the determinisms that govern the material world, is actually also just a disguise, hiding this unseen necessity. The world has to evolve like this because some intention has been placed in it from the very beginning. No? So it may look like a game of chance, but actually it's all following the purpose of an all-powerful will and intention. I think we'll stop there for today. The inspiring goddess entered a mortal's breast, made there her study of divining thought and sanctuary of prophetic speech, and sat upon the tripod seat of mind. All was made wide above, all lit below. In darkness core she dug out wells of light. On the undiscovered depths imposed a form, lent a vibrant cry to the unuttered vasts, and through great shoreless, voiceless, starless breadths bore earthward fragments of revealing thought, hewn from the silence of the ineffable. A voice in the heart uttered the unspoken name. A dream of seeking thought, wandering through space, entered the invisible and forbidden house. The treasure was found of a supernal day. In the deep subconscient glowed her jewel lamp. Lifted, it showed the riches of the cave, where, by the miser traffickers of sense unused, guarded beneath night's dragon paws, in folds of velvet darkness draped, they sleep, whose priceless value could have saved the world. A darkness carrying morning in its breast looked for the eternal, wide, returning gleam, waiting the advent of a larger ray and rescue of the lost herds of the sun. In a splendid extravagance of the waste of God, dropped carelessly in creation's spendthrift work, left in the chantiers of the bottomless world, and stolen by the robbers of the deep, the golden shekels of the eternal lie, hoarded from touch and view and thought's desire, locked in blind antres of the ignorant flood, lest men should find them and be even as gods. A vision lightened on the viewless heights, a wisdom illumined from the voiceless depths, a deeper interpretation greatened truth, a grand reversal of the night and day. All the world's values changed, heightening life's aim. A wiser word, a larger thought came in than what the slow labor of human mind can bring. A secret sense awoke that could perceive a presence and a greatness everywhere. The universe was not now this senseless whirl borne round inert on an immense machine. It cast away its grandiose, lifeless front. A mechanism no more or work of chance, but a living movement of the body of God. A spirit hid in forces and in forms was the spectator of the mobile scene. The beauty and the ceaseless miracle let in a glow of the unmanifest. The formless everlasting moved in it, seeking its own perfect form in souls and things. Life kept no more a dull and meaningless shape. In the struggle and upheaval of the world, he saw the labor of a Godhead's birth. A secret knowledge masked as ignorance. Fate covered with an unseen necessity, the game of chance of an omnipotent will.